So no, that's not true. I'm not sure where some of these numbers come from. So just to let you know, we set grade boundaries each year for every paper based on the difficulty of that paper. What's most important to us is that students every year can have confidence that their grade means the same as a grade in a previous year and means the same as a grade in the future year. So your A this year means the same as an A or in a previous year. So the guidelines that we use are an approach which makes sure that broadly you expect outcomes for students to be similar from one year to the next. But the most important thing that we do is we ask senior examiners to look at students' work across a range of marks and compare that with students' work in a previous year. And by doing that, what they're able to say is, yes, the work at the grade boundary this year is as good as and the same standard as the work at a grade boundary from the previous year. And that's the most important thing. What I'd say is, I know everybody thinks about them and we have a lot of questions about them. For me, the most important thing is not where's the grade boundary, it's when you get your grade, are you happy that it reflects the work that you put in? And that's what's most important to us.
Okay, so firstly, the same rules apply across all awarding bodies, and it's actually the Joint Council for Qualifications that sets the regulations around releasing grade boundaries. You may or may not know that the grade boundaries and the exam results are released to exams officers confidentially on the Wednesday, so the day before you get them. And the purpose for doing that is to enable your exams officers to do all their administrative checks. So to make sure that they've got results for everyone, that everything's in order, there's nothing missing, and the results look as they expect. What happens next is then at 6 o'clock on the Thursday morning, which is the day you get the results, the grade boundaries will be put on our website, so you can access them at that point. However, I think the key thing is that the grade boundaries on their own, or the results on their own, don't actually make a lot of sense. You need both of those pieces of information together. So, I mean, this is my 20th results day. I've been sort of involved in examinations for 20 years, and I was actually a teacher before that. And I know in the past we have done different things, but I think that you really need those two pieces of information together. So that's the reason for taking the approach of releasing the grade boundaries as close to the point as possible at which you're getting your results on results day, so that you can see the two things together. And if hopefully everything will be as you expect and you'll be busily thinking about your next steps. But if not, you've got all the information you need to sit down with your teachers to understand what to do next. So the vast majority of students will receive the results that they're expecting on results day, but there will of course be a small number that don't get the results that they're expecting. If you're in that position, one of the things that is open to you is what's called a review of marking. So this is where you can ask the exam board to review the marking of all of your scripts for a particular subject. Now, it's worth remembering that a review of marking can result in either a grade going up or a grade going down, and actually the exam board only change the mark where there has been an error. So it's really important to bear those things in mind. So what I would say is, if you are in the position on results day where you haven't got what you expected, please sit down with your teachers. They'll have mark schemes, they'll have access for Pearson qualifications to an electronic image of your actual exam scripts. They'll have other information available to them about what's happened to all the other students at your school, but also nationally through our Results Plus service. So they will have a lot of information that they can sit down and support you and help you make the right decision based on your performance in that exam. So there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years in qualifications, and one of the changes that the government decided to make was to separate the AS and the A-level qualifications, so they're completely standalone qualifications. As you'll probably know, in the past, AS used to contribute to the overall A-level result and it now doesn't. What we want to do as exam boards is really offer schools choice, and what we're seeing at the moment is that schools are taking decisions on behalf of their students based on what's best for their students. So in some schools, all of the young people are taking the AS as a kind of a stepping stone at the end of year 12 onto the A-level. In other schools, students are just studying the 2 years and finishing with an A-level. I think it's a bit early to say about whether which is a better way forward. I think it's really about teachers and schools making the best decisions based on what subjects are being studied and the students at their school. So exam boards have been very busy over the last couple of months. There's about 15 million exam papers that are marked and assessed during the summer period. There's about 2.5 million at A-level, and then about 5.5 million GCSE grades are awarded. And this is a huge and complex system. So once you've taken your exam, for Pearson, all your exam scripts are picked up. They're taken to our processing centre, which is based in Yorkshire, where we check that we've got everything that we're expecting, and then the scripts are scanned into our electronic marking system. We then have about 20,000 examiners that work for us who are busy at home marking your exam scripts, having been trained either online or face-to-face. We have teams of senior examiners that are constantly checking the marking of our examiners, making sure that it's as accurate as possible, and looking at the data of how individual markers are performing, but also reviewing scripts and making sure the marking is as accurate as possible. We have teams of people in our exam board offices that are looking at that data, monitoring progress to make sure we can hit results day, but also looking at what that's telling us about how individual questions have performed and how you've performed across assessments as a whole. And it's lots of that data that's helped us really inform the work that we've been doing on A-level maths that we've already sort of talked about. So there's a huge amount of work that goes on involving many people. At this point in the summer, we're just doing all of our kind of final checks on results to make sure everything's there, everything's accurate and ready for results day. We are also preparing all of our communications so that students, teachers, parents have all the information that they need to understand the results that you'll be receiving over the next couple of weeks, but to also inform any next steps.